judges of Israel, people that were selected by God to save Israel once again from their impending circumstances they always seem to put themselves back into. But we're going to look at Gideon this morning. And we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to look at him and how things kind of took place to lead up to the things that he did, and just give you a little background information. Gideon was after Deborah, which was a judge who came and saved Israel once again. And between Deborah and Gideon, there was a 40-year reign of peace that Israel had from their enemies and everything. So 40 years they did good. Then something happened, as Judges chapter 6, verse 1 says, and it says, I like the way this says, and I'm going to be reading from a different version, not the standard King James, because I like the way, this is my son's Bible. I like the way it reads. It really puts it more simple. You know, you got a lot of this and thous and does in the New King James. It just breaks it down a little bit more simple, and especially some other scripture that we're going to read later on that really, I like the way it read in there too. But it says, and again, starting at verse 1, and again the Israelites did what the Lord said was wrong. I like the way that starts, again. This isn't the first time, it's again. It's kind of like us. Again, we did something wrong. You know. So for 7 years, the Lord handed them over to the, and I hope I'm going to say this right, the Medians. Because the Medians were very powerful and were cruel to Israel, the Israelites made hiding places in the mountains, in caves, and in safe places. Okay, so we got here again, the Israelites came out of 40 years of peace from their enemies. You pretty much can guess what they did again. They took their eyes off of God and began to worship the idol gods of the surrounding people that surrounded them. Basically what they did again was they took their eyes off of God. Just like in the day of Moses, when Moses brought them out of Egypt. What did they do when Moses went to the mountain? Well, they began to form a golden calf. They began to worship the calf and everything. They got their eyes off of God. And this has been I guess, a plague that has gone with the children of Israel all through the time. They kept taking their eyes off of God, just like we do today. We take our eyes off of God sometimes, and we start focusing in on us and what we want to do. So again, they got their eyes off of God. They began to worship idol gods that their neighboring people had maybe brought in, you know, and they started worshiping it, and they forgot what God did for them and everything. And so they took and made their hiding places in the caves, as it says. And it says, whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites and Amaleks and other people from the east would come and attack them. They camped in the land and destroyed the crops that the Israelites had planted as far away as Gaza. They left nothing for Israel to eat, and no sheep, cattle, or donkeys. So whenever the Israelites tried to plant food for themselves, their enemy came in and just ravaged it and destroyed it. So they left nothing, not even to feed the cattle. So they were trying to pretty much destroy the children of Israel. No, I'm not chewing on. Sorry. Anyway. The Midianites came with their tents and their animals like swarms of locusts to ruin the land. There were so many people and camels that they could not be counted. Israel became very poor because of the Midianites, so they cried out to the Lord. So here we got the children of Israelites are in the same place again. They turn their eyes off of God. Their enemies come in, and it's running them to their weakest point. They're poor. They ain't got no food. They can't protect themselves or whatever. And what do they do? Oh, hey, there's a God that we used to serve, and let's call to Him. So they start crying out to God, and they cry out to God. That's what we do too. You know, like those people that say they don't believe in God. Usually the first thing they call on, oh God. It's easy to cry on God. Even people you work with, they cry on God